Good afternoon, or morning, evening, depending on where you are, where you're joining us from. It'll be one or the other of those. So, look, it's obviously morning here in UK. We're delighted to welcome you all to our first ever digital trade conference at techUK. And together with our partners, we've put together an excellent lineup of speakers to discuss the latest trends and best practice in trade and digital trade from around the world. I'm Julian David, I'm the CEO of techUK, and we are the trade association for digital tech in the UK. Digital tech has been a part of every aspect of our lives throughout the pandemic, but it's been happening for a while. Over the years, and exponentially more in the past year, digital technologies have transformed the way international trade takes place. And the analog world of trade has been transformed by information communication technologies. They've upended traditional goods supply chains, created entirely new distributions and new industries and services through the internet. And that means that trade across borders can be done with ease if we get things right. And in pursuit of getting things right, in January 2020, we put forward a vision for UK digital trade policy. And that set out an ambitious agenda for the UK to shape the future, or help shape the future of global digital trade. Why? Because the UK is one of the world's most significant tech sectors, receiving a record high of 15 billion in venture capital investment in 2020. And to ensure this continued success, we thought then and still do now that the UK needs an effective digital trade strategy. So in the meantime, of course, we've had the pandemic that took over the world. Brexit happened, changed our relationships with our closest partners. And the first digital-only trade agreements were signed. Significantly, the UK signed FTAs with modern digital trade provisions with both the EU and Japan, and has, of course, formally applied to join CPTPP. I'm sure we'll hear more of that, both in our keynote and in the panel that comes soon. In the to account for all these developments, since that report, we launched a new report, and we're launching that today, a blueprint for UK digital trade. It includes an updated context to account for all the changes in global dynamics over the past 16 months. And the report outlines a few new principles, especially in the regulatory cooperation space, on issues like digital identity or a safe and secure online environment. And we've introduced a brand new chapter on digital trade and the environment, showcasing all the ways in which digital technologies and free and open digital trade can help us achieve our climate goals. If you want to hear more about that, tune in at 1:10 UK time for the official launch. So I'm really looking forward to the conference today, what will surely be an enriching conversation on global best practice on digital trade from many contributors from all around the world. What good looks like, what we can learn from each other, and how the UK can help to drive a vision for open digital trade going forward. I'm about to introduce our first keynote speaker of the day, but of course, as you all know, these events need people to help us organise them, set them up. And I would like to thank our sponsors, Google, Sage and EY, as well as partners, in particular the Australian government, JATA, our corresponding association from Japan, the European Services Forum, ITI from UK, and TechNation from Canada. Sorry, the ITI from the US, excuse me, and TechNation Canada for supporting this event today. So let's get on with the agenda. Without further ado, I'm delighted to introduce from the afternoon already and from Singapore, Sam Myers, Majesty's Trade Commissioner for Asia-Pacific. And Sam's going to deliver the first keynote of the day ahead of a panel, and that will focus on Australia, New Zealand and Singapore. So Sam, much welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Julian. It's great to be here, and congratulations on today's conference. I think it promises to be a great lineup of speakers. And later on in the day, you'll be hearing from Minister Stewart, one of the DIT ministers. So you've got some great speakers ahead. And I saw Debbie Elms came online there briefly as well, who brings a lot of expertise into the next panel session. So I'm really delighted. It's a great privilege to be able to provide the first keynote speech of today's conference. as part of this impressive lineup. And I'll just be sharing a snapshot of why I think Asia Pacific is perhaps an overlooked opportunity for UK tech companies, for attracting tech investment into the UK, and also for partnerships in developing tech and digital trade opportunities. Now, you've heard it many times before throughout the pandemic and the last 16 months about the new normal. And of course, I think we all know that nowhere more dramatic do we expect our use of digital technology to be transformative and long-lasting beyond the pandemic. So from binge watching Line of Duty on the iPlayer to ordering food on Deliveroo, through to the wholesale digital delivery of services such as telemedicine and insurance, I think we've really seen some of the capabilities of digital trade and digital tech as a side effect and fallout from the pandemic, but the benefits and the upsides have been clear to all. So digital trade really is a crucial area for future prosperity, and it's one in which the UK excels. It's a key driver of productivity, of growing our businesses, as well as creating a wide range of new opportunities. And getting it right is not going to be easy, but if we do so, then we'll have the potential to transform broad swathes of the economy and to really grow back stronger and better from the economic and health impacts of the last year. Now, I mentioned I'm here representing the Asia Pacific region, so I'm Her Majesty's Trade Commissioner for the Asia Pacific. And I hope to leave with you a sense of the really exciting future plans we have for digital trade between the UK and Asia Pacific. I won't major on it, but perhaps one of the first things that I'd like to reference is I hear a lot of companies, when I speak to them from the UK, naturally orientating themselves towards Silicon Valley. And when they think, export out of the UK's really vibrant ecosystem, of which techUK is a key contributor and leadership voice, many companies automatically think about Silicon Valley. And that's great. And you'll be hearing from my counterpart, Anthony Phillipson, later on in the programme today. But I'd also like those of you in the audience who haven't yet recognised the huge opportunities of Asia Pacific, just to give this part of the world a second thought and perhaps connect with me and my teams to help you understand the huge opportunities that the Asia Pacific provides for the UK in tech. So the Asia Pacific, I believe, is really crucial to our digital transformation. And as a newly independent trading nation with a thriving digital economy, the UK has the opportunity to create trade agreements that demonstrate our international values and build upon our economic strengths. And that's exactly what we're doing. So the integrated review, which was a government document published in March, demonstrates some of this by putting international trade at the heart of the UK's and the government's vision for global Britain. And it recognises trade as a key lever in the UK's future prosperity, both at home and also our global influence abroad. Government aims to open up new markets with the world's fastest growing economies to give UK businesses more opportunities to grow through international trade. And there's references to deepening engagement with the Indo-Pacific, which I'm calling the Indo-Pacific tilt. And that means that we'll be pursuing deeper engagement with South Asia, China, and Asia Pacific, the Indo-Pacific, both through stronger trading ties with major regional powers such as India and Japan, as well as other countries of growing importance such as South Korea and Vietnam. And we're seeking partnerships, not just in trade, but more broadly across science, technology and data. And we're already seeing these come through in some of the agreements that the UK has been striking with this part of the world. I'll touch briefly on the Japan FTA, but also, as referenced by Julian, the digital economy agreement that we're looking to strike with Singapore. So what does that sort of deepening presence really look like on the ground beyond some of those sort of the rhetoric that I've shared with you up front there? Well, from robotics through to fintechs to computer games to green finance, I think we all know that the UK has huge strengths in digital exports. In fact, we're the second largest digital exporter in the world, with exports totaling £318 billion. And we expect export nearly as many services from Scotland and the northwest of England as the entirety of France does. So I think our own homegrown credentials are pretty clear. And new experimental ONS statistics capture that trade in services that is actually, as opposed to potentially, delivered remotely and digitally. And they show that the UK had a trade surplus of just shy of £100 billion in digitally delivered services in 2018. So what are some of the measures that we're sort of taking forward to help capitalise and grow these huge opportunities with the Asia Pacific? Well, one that I hope has come across your agenda, it's a bit of a mouthful, CPTPP. That stands for the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. And it's a mega trade deal of which 7 of the 11 CPTPP member countries sit in the Asia Pacific. And that's why the centre of gravity of CPTPP and the free trade area that it creates is really important for trade and investment between the UK and this part of the world. Because in February this year, the UK submitted our notification of intent to begin the CPTPP accession process, which was the first formal step towards accession before formal negotiations we hope start later this year. Indeed, British companies have been doing £111 billion worth of trade with members of this free trade zone, and so we're planning to do even more as a full member of CPTPP. And it would give us unprecedented access to over 40% of the world's gross domestic product, or over £27 trillion. Now, the reason I share CPTPP today is because it sets modern rules for digital trade across all sectors of the economy. And it's got a really comprehensive and deep e-commerce chapter that's widely considered to be a landmark agreement on digital trade, helping to shape the emerging digital trade rulebook and supporting businesses of all sizes across the UK. So we're delivering cross-cutting digital trade provisions in CPTPP, as well as a number of other bilateral free trade agreements. The first I'll share with you is the Japan FTA, which we've already signed, the UK-Japan FTA, and that contains some of the most advanced digital trade provisions seen in any modern trade agreement. And it's an important signal of the UK's intent to be a global leader in digital trade, and sets a foundation for British companies and tech companies to trade with Japan, as well as a signal of the future agreements that will be striking with other countries in the years to come. It's expected to boost trade between the UK and Japan by over £15 billion. And it's a stepping stone. We're already pursuing agreements and discussions with Australia and New Zealand in this part of the world. I mentioned up front the digital economy agreement with Singapore. So let me just pause on that for a second. Now, the Singapore-UK digital economy agreement would be in the vanguard of our digital economy agreements. Singapore have already negotiated similar agreements, one called DEEPA, Digital Economy Partnership Agreement, which includes Chile and New Zealand. They also have a digital economy agreement in place with Australia and negotiating a digital partnership agreement with South Korea. So the UK is in discussions and hope to launch formal negotiations for a UK-Singapore digital economy agreement very shortly. And we're making good progress in identifying the sorts of modules and topics that we hope to include in such an agreement. We're expecting it to have core digital trade provisions, as well as a number of partnership projects and pilot projects that can support digital trade facilitation, rules on data flows, and interoperability between our systems. So it's going to be a very far-reaching and ambitious digital economy agreement, and we'll keep you updated as we progress discussions there. I also mentioned the Australia FTA. We're making really good progress and seeking to sort of translate that into agreement in principle as quickly as possible. And Australia is a really important partner in this part of the world on digital trade. And in 2019 alone, we exported from the UK over £4.2 billion of digitally delivered services to Australia. And we're seeking equally ambitious provisions for digital trade, telecoms, tech companies, and supporting businesses of all sizes as we progress our discussions with Australia. And hot on the heels of that as well, we're very aligned with New Zealand, where we're in negotiations for an FTA between the UK and New Zealand on digital trade. So expect more to come from that front. So there's some of the formal FTAs and free trade areas that the UK is pursuing partnership with. I think the reason why I also think this is an important part of the world for you to think about is that we've also piloted something called the Digital Trade Network in Asia Pacific. And the Digital Trade Network is a partnership between the Department for International Trade and the Department for Culture, Media and Sports, DCMS, in the UK. It's working very closely with techUK and bodies such as techUK and companies directly to support your ambitions of growth and perhaps to overcome that inertia and barrier to the opportunities in Asia Pacific and help you to think Asia Pacific in the same breath as you might do Silicon Valley. So the Digital Trade Network launched almost a year ago now and is aiming to form sort of a support network across Asia Pacific based out of posts and embassies. And it's a 3-year pilot project bringing together trade policy, digital tech and trade promotion, investment promotion, and also supporting tech entrepreneurs, providing linkages and networks into some of the movers and shakers in digital tech in Asia Pacific and linking them up into the UK's vibrant ecosystem. So we've already got offices in Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea and Australia, and we'll be building upon that. And we've got a partnership with Tech Nation to help deliver some of the provisions of the Digital Trade Network. So I won't take up any more of your time, but I hope I've whetted your appetite about why I think Asia Pacific should be your go-to region when you're thinking about the opportunities of the future standards, the future tech, the advances in digital trade and digital tech. They are coming from this part of the world. This is where the political, the economic and the technological centre of gravity is reorientating before and post-COVID. And my team exists on the ground here to work with techUK, to work with some of the partners you'll be hearing from later today, and colleagues and ministers in headquarters from DIT. Please do reach out to us to help with your ambitions, to understand more about the opportunities in this part of the world. So as I head into my evening and start my Deliveroo ordering process and binge watching of some more iPlayer classics, I'd like to thank techUK for bringing together such an impressive group of speakers today. Thank you for your participation and your involvement in the sessions as an audience, and what a great set of speakers you've got coming throughout the course of the day. So I hope you have a really exciting and rewarding conference to come. Thanks very much, Julian.
Thanks, Sam. And I think as we get speakers from other regions, if they're as enthusiastic and championing their own regions as much as you, this should be quite a good contest today. And I also think I'm going to hand over to Sabina in a minute, but I also think you've raised a few interesting questions for the panel that's coming up, in particular the conjunction of India alongside Asia Pacific and the other countries there, but also this idea that we can revolutionise and change things, and also we can join up government, a partnership with the digital department here in the UK and the trade department, which is obviously something that can be really exciting for businesses here and in the countries that you were talking about.